Hello, Monetization here. Let's talk about David Jaffe. So David Jaffe, game designer for God of War and Twisted Metal, has been on a rampage, his own holy crusade against Metroid Dread.
They fucking wouldn't. Crap, Bush League. This should not get a pass. I'm sorry, it's crap. Utter horseshit.
Why? Well, according to him, it's because it's a garbage game with horrible design. It's just so awful, a 3 out of 10.
Scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the best game ever made, 1 being a piece of shit, it's a 3. It's a 3. It's not good.
The reality, he got stuck in a room and couldn't figure it out because he didn't pay attention to the tutorial.
I got stuck in this area of Metroid, and this Metroid Dread, and this was the point where I just said, fuck it, I'm done. And I deleted the game, and I haven't looked back except to make videos like this and debate with people. Unless I miss some visual cueing, there are parts in the game that you can only advance by shooting stuff and just hoping you get lucky. And bullshit right there. Why would anyone know to do that? They wouldn't. Explain that it's non-intuitive. I'm not opposed to Metroid or Castlevania, Metroidvania style design.
Are you sure about
that?
But
the idea of saying it's your fault, Jaffy, because that's how this particular series is. You don't think it's the game's job to let the player know every time they make a new game how the series is? What you're basically saying, think about this. What you're basically saying is you think it's totally valid if you're playing a game that if you don't go back to the NES or Super NES version and deal with the frustration there, well, that's fuck you then. I mean, seriously, that's what you're saying. You're saying if you don't know what we've made before, then go fuck yourself.
Bro! It's literally right there, bro! It's literally right there, bro! And he was going out of his way not to play the game the way it was supposed to. He even admitted, he's like, well, if I can get away with playing it like Mega Man, then I will.
And I've already talked about, the pathfinding of the creature. I killed it when it wasn't underneath the thing. People are like, well, you should aim. It's like, yeah, I know that. I don't like the aiming in this game because of the Joy-Cons. My Joy-Cons may have drift. It doesn't matter. I don't like it. Okay, so if I can get away with shooting normally like Mega Man, I'll do that more often, okay?
The game is designed to play the way the game tells you can play it. Use the free aim. But he refuses to use it because he just doesn't want to. And he gets angry that a game designed around those mechanics isn't working when he's completely playing it wrong. Imagine if you went to like the original God of War and you didn't like double jump or you didn't like use the combos and you complained that I can't get over this. I can't jump it. And then someone says you should double jump. And you're like, how was I supposed to know that? Oh, it was in the tutorial. Oh, well, I skipped it. I mean, this is like unironically, this is like DSP levels of nonsense.
It's a joke. This boss fight is a fucking joke. You can't hit him.
You know what? I'll go so far as to say this is Dean Takahashi levels of incompetence. Oh yeah, Mr. Cuphead Man himself, who could barely get through the tutorial. This is like that. Except at least Dean Takahashi had enough self-awareness to go, whoa, look, I suck at Cuphead. It's still a significant embarrassment that a guy like Dean Takahashi could barely get through the tutorial that a literal child could complete faster than him. This is absolutely insane. And you know what? No one would have a problem with David Jaffe if he was playing Metroid Dread, he got frustrated, he stopped playing and said, look guys, Metroid Dread isn't my thing. And then he stopped and he moved on. You probably would have had a few trolls going, oh, good scrub. But most people would have been like, oh, that's fine if he played it and didn't enjoy it because it's not his thing. That's fine. I mean, I love this game. I'm playing through it. I've got one more in me left to go. I'm really loving the game. But, if he didn't like it, then that's fine. I mean, everyone would have been fine. And he'll act like that's what he's doing. He'll act like he just said, the game's not for me. And all the crazy Metroid fanboys just attacked him for no reason.
I woke up today to a lot of, I don't even know if they're Nintendo fanboys. I'm going to call them Metroid fanboys and ladies because they're not arguing and debating rationally. They're simply lashing out and defending something that is not defendable. Yeah, fuck off. No, I don't like this game. I think the reviews are overblown. I think the hype is overblown because the fans haven't had a proper Metroid in 10 years. And it's kind of, in my opinion, it's embarrassing to watch the fanboys of this game. Fangirls, whatever.
He's the one who started the hostilities. He's the one calling it terrible, garbage, horribly designed, drab, awful. Says the game, when you look back in 5 years, it'll be like, you'll know that it's bad.
And not even just in his videos where he's constantly complaining and accusing Metroid Dread of being terrible. You can look at his reactions from his live stream where he first got pissed off at the room and started complaining about Metroid Dread, and you can see why people took issue with it from the start, and he refuses to admit that he messed up because he was playing badly and refusing to use the actual game's mechanics to play it.
Oh, why would I know that? Why would I ever have known to do that? That's some bullshit right there. Why would anyone know to do that? What utter bullshit. Okay, that's... I'm sorry, man. I'm so sick of reviewers. It's a 10, it's a 9, Game of the Year. You literally cannot... Why would you know? Oh my God, that's bad. How does that get past people? I'm sorry, Bacon, if you don't look at that and you think that's an acceptable piece of game design, I mean, come on. That can't just be me, right? I mean, that's some horseshit. Well, Oggernaut, to be fair, I'm high as a kite right now. Even that, the shooting of that is, the parrying of that is absolutely off. Like, you have to parry way too early. This is not a very well-made game so far. I'm sorry, it just isn't. How this has gotten the level of love it has from critics, people talk about that Nintendo bump. I'm starting to think it's a real goddamn thing. It's like this. I guess I'm not doing any damage to it. It's such a bad... I don't want to persevere. Maybe, you know what, in a lot of ways, I think that is a difference between me having worked in games and other people not. Maybe gamers just look at this like it's the gamer's problem. I look at this like it's the developer's problem. Like, this is an absolute poorly tuned game. I'm sorry, you don't release a game that plays shitty with the controller that most people have. I mean, if you're gonna do that, just fucking pack the goddamn controller in there.
How do people have an uproar about this boss fight?
Fuck you, Metroid. You're a piece of shit. Absolute piece of shit. But 90% of what I played for 2 hours was just sterile metal hallways. It really felt like a high-res, Game Boy Advanced license title in terms of the visual set. It really felt like a high-res, Game Boy Advanced license title in terms of the visual set. It really felt like a high-res, Game Boy Advanced license title. It really felt like a high-res, Game Boy Advanced license title. It really felt like a high-res, Game Boy Advanced license title. it really felt like a high-res, Game Boy Advanced licensed title. It really felt like a high-res, Game Boy Advanced licensed title.
Is any of this for real?
It just looked very repetitive, and I'm not saying the whole game's like that, but it was very strange for a $60 AAA first party game to have such a uninteresting visual design, to have such a uninteresting visual design, uninteresting visual design. It's not good. This is not a good game. The environments are too similar. It's too sterile. People will look back at this game, mark my words, in 5 years, I'll still be here, mark my words, 5 years, people will look back and say, that was okay. That's okay. It's not a good game.
He's comparing it to other games, particularly he compared it to Shantae and the Seven Sirens, and was talking about how this is a really good Metroidvania, and you should play this instead of Dread. Really? That guy wants to convince people that he's just sharing his opinion, and he's using the whole, it's just my opinion, as a shield.
Now, reviews are subjective. I don't care if you love it. I'm glad you love it. I want you to love all the things you play. But even if that's not the case with you, even if you're like, dude, all that's great, but I fucking love Dread. That's great. Go love Dread. Go fucking make a baby with it. I don't care. It's my fucking review, motherfucker. I did not like it. I thought it was a poorly designed video game, in my opinion.
No, you don't get to make factual statements. Like, you don't say Metroid Dread is a badly designed game
and then use, but it's just my opinion, I'm being subjective, as your defense. Because what David Jaffe is doing is he's consistently making factual statements. Metroid Dread is bad, and it's bad for XYZ reasons. This isn't a, oh, well, it's my opinion. No, he's saying this as if it's something that is absolutely true, and he believes it's true, and he constantly tries to prove this in his videos. Metroid Dread is bad because the controller is wrong, or this area is badly designed, etc., etc. And ultimately, David Jaffe is so dedicated to this and pissed off
just because he didn't understand it. And apparently, and I heard that he was high when he was playing it.
Well, Oggernaut, to be fair, I'm high as a kite right now. Well, I'm not as bad as I was, but I'm sure that's playing a big part. Oh, Jesus fucking.
Which might explain it. Except, plenty of people have commented on that fact and said that they were high when they played Metroid Dread, and they didn't have this problem. So on all accounts, this guy who's a game designer of well-known games and has decades of years of experience, and he wants to remind you of that. He wants to constantly remind you that I created God of War, and he puts it in his titles and, thumbnails and stuff, and wants to brag about that.
You like the thumbnail? I thought you would. Do you like that? I did that. I won the award, motherfucker. Come on, really?
As if that gives him real merit to his arguments, when people have been destroying his arguments left and right, and showing, yeah, that room is actually really well designed. There's a video from Marco Bayod. I'll link the videos that he's done on this. He's done two down below. One was showing the room was actually pretty well designed, that most people who went through it didn't have a problem. Plenty of people who streamed it just shot the enemies on the ceiling. They shot through the ceiling and then they just moved on. And some of them just shot the ceiling naturally.
This is an archaic design. It's not good. If you didn't grow up, I challenge you to put 20 new players into a room and see what kind of fun they have with this thing.
Month. Oh, I haven't been here before. The game did say it was super hard timing, but I mean, it's like... Oh.
Maybe this is more where I was supposed to go.
Used to give a game a score.
And he has the audacity to say that he looked at that video. He's like, no, they didn't shoot the ceiling. They shot the enemies that were on the ceiling and hit the blocks.
This is the one that drives me the most batshit, though, is the idea of people saying it's obvious you're supposed to shoot up there. Well, the video that you guys have seen going around where the guy kind of, edits and puts Shantae at the end and everything, and I've seen that video too, everybody who came in there, nobody was going, there's a secret up there. They were shooting the enemies or shooting blindly, and most of them accidentally opened up the ceiling, okay?
Yes, Mr. Jaffy, that's the point. When people talk about this game being well designed, and particularly this room that he keeps having such an issue with, and you talk about the design of it, it's actually really interesting. With the way that they draw your attention to that center part, with the way that if you're paying attention, you can see that it's a little bit different. He claims that they're not different, but that's just because he wasn't paying attention. If you actually look at it, you can see that those specific blocks do look different from the other ones. And there are enemies on the ceiling so that when you come in and you use the free aim, as most people do, you will inevitably miss a shot and hit one of the blocks. A lot of people did that. The room was designed in order to make people do that. And, contrary to what he initially said, and he reluctantly admitted that he was wrong on this. He was like, oh, there's so many rooms. No, actually. And as he tried to prove, and ultimately ended up disproving his own point.
Here's the room. Okay, just really quickly, if I may. People telling me, okay, I want to make something clear. Okay, let's make something clear real quick. I'm not going to spend too much time in here. I just want to show you something, though. Here's the infamous room. People telling me, Jaffy, it's a dead end. What else would you do? No, it's not. People saying, oh, there's only a few rooms. No. And I have well, yeah, you're stuck there. So you can basically go this way. Let me just fucking show you this bullshit. I mean, I can go in there. I can go down here. No, I can't. I can go. I know you. I'm just going to show you this because I'm so tired of people acting like. Right? I mean, come on. There's a million places you could go where you're like, what am I supposed to do next? And I think there was actually more rooms you could go into because I want to say I have the lava flow. Before I had the lava flowing in the other direction. See this tube here? Before I ever made it to this room before, that lava was flowing. But I'm going to really look at this section. Yeah, you're not going to convince me that this doesn't look like a hole I can jump into.
He went back to that area and tried to show all the rooms you can go to, except the game does this a few times, and having enough experience with games, I notice this, but I do appreciate it. That there are certain points where Metroid Dread will sort of soft lock you into a certain area. Because it wants to push you forward. It doesn't want you to get too lost, because some of these areas are huge. But the way it's designed is that you'll have some areas where, oh, well, you need the morph ball to get through here, but you don't have it yet, so you can't go through that area. Okay, this area, and you need a specific power-up. In the case of this area, the Phantom Cloak, to get through a couple of doors. You don't have that yet, so you can't go through those doors. And then the other doors are locked. So the only way to go is to that room, the newest room you go to, and find a way out of it. And the game already explained earlier during the tutorial that there are some hidden blocks that you can shoot them to reveal them. And if you get stuck in an area, it encourages you to fire at the walls and see what you can unveil. Most people don't have a problem understanding that, except David Jaffe. Ultimately, this is 100% about his ego. And it's funny because he got into Twitter slap fights that he kept getting ratioed on. and even got into arguments with me, and I ratioed him. It's hilarious. Everyone was ratioing him, especially Marco Bayo, and he posted that video on Twitter, and he got like 10,000 likes. It completely demolished Jaffy. But Jaffy will claim it's not an ego thing. Yes, it is. It's absolutely all about his ego. Because what happened is, he played the game, he got stuck, didn't realize what he had to do because he skipped through the tutorial, and he wasn't playing the game as intended. He got frustrated, rage quit, and is trying to justify his decision by then coming up with this elaborate story of, it's a badly designed game. It's all to soothe his own ego. That was it. That's the whole reason he started this. And because he can't just admit that he messed up, he now has to stick to his guns, or else he's going to make himself look like an even bigger fool if he goes and admits, oh, well, you know, I was actually wrong about all of this. No, he wouldn't do that. He doesn't want to do that because he's already cemented himself to this position so far, and he's hanging above the harbor. He doesn't want to drop and just sink, even though that's an inevitability. He's straight up lying in a lot of the situations. He even made a review after only playing through the first little bit of it. And he tries to claim it's badly designed. It looks so drab. It's like just hallways and caverns. It's like, dude, you were in the first area. It's like, you have a molten area with like a thermal power plant. You've got this whole underwater, area. You've got an underground forest. You've got several different areas that you can check out that have very distinctive looks. And he brags about making a review on the game after only playing through a tiny bit of it. Like, it's full-on game journalist nonsense. And it's a shame seeing a guy like David Jaffe, who, while I never really cared about, I at least would have given him respect for his contribution with games like God of War and Twisted Metal. Like, hey, I'm not a fan of those games, but a lot of people are, and I would have given him credit. But to be honest, with how he's talking, it's like, man, how much was he even involved in those games? Given if this is what he considers bad game design, an extremely well-made game. And I mean, yeah, there are some areas where I got stuck. There's one area in particular that I was probably stuck at the longest out of any area in the game so far, and that was only because I straight up missed a way to go. And I was searching all over, and there was this one spot I can jump up. I don't remember which area it was. Was it Cataris? I think it was Cataris. But I missed that. That's my bad. I don't get mad screaming at the game that it's badly designed just because I missed something. And a lot of people have come and told stories of, yeah, I got stuck at 1 or 2 parts. It happens. Sometimes you have a brain fart. And you can just admit, yeah, I messed up. I mean, if I was playing Metroid Dread on stream and I got to the part where I was running around like an idiot for about 10 minutes, not knowing where to go, and just because I missed a spot, I'm not going to go, oh, this game is terribly designed. I'm deleting this game. I mean, I have a physical card, but, I didn't rage quit it. You stick with it, and you'll manage to get through.
I don't want to persevere.
And he makes a point to talk about how he likes, hard but fair games like Demon Souls.
And, like, for example, Demon Souls, I adore. Love that game. Played it obsessively for the month it came out in November, whenever it was. I was terrible at it. I remained terrible at it, but I loved it because it was fair. I'm not opposed to being bad at games, and I like hard games sometimes, but they have to be fair, okay? I don't think Metroid Dread is fair in some of its puzzles, and I abandoned it not because, that one puzzle pissed me off, but because I was forward thinking of, holy shit, if this is bad this early, it's going to just be even worse, 2 hours down the line, and I wanted nothing to do with it.
Which is so weird to me, because having played a good amount of Dread, I'm pretty sure I'm in the end game of it now. It's an extremely fair game. It's hard, don't get me wrong. It doesn't pull its punches. And some of the bosses can cleave off multiple energy tanks of health with a single hit. But it's extremely fair. Well, in general, yes. if you die, you will lose your progress from, and you have to go back to the last save room you were in. It'll give you checkpoints over areas that you're probably going to die in numerous times. Right before boss fights, and right before you go into Emmy zones. Because Emmys are a one-hit kill. You can counter them with really precise timing. The actual timing windows is randomized, so you're not going to be able to form any muscle memory on it, and hitting it is kind of a lucky shot that requires extremely precise timing that you're probably not going to be hitting consistently. And with boss fights, yeah, a lot of those boss fights are tough. And there are some boss fights that I went through like a dozen or even 24 times, and then it just could not get through it. But then I figured out the patterns. I figured out what I could counter, how I was supposed to go through certain parts. And there are some, even the hardest bosses so far, still can be beaten with perseverance.
I don't want to persevere.
It's laughable to me that David Jaffe would start talking about how badly designed this was. Like, no, it's actually really well designed. It's pretty pathetic that he played through a bit of the game and is claiming that the whole game is badly designed because of one room that's actually pretty well designed that he just got stuck on. And it's really funny seeing him scramble to come up with reasons why the game is bad. Like, when he was streaming and people were telling him that he should use a Pro Controller, he was so pissed off because he was playing with the Joy-Cons in the grip, which is fine. I mean, I can play things just fine on it. Personally, though, I'm not the biggest fan, not because it's bad. I mean, it works perfectly fine, but it's just it feels a little small in my hands. That's why I prefer to use the Pro Controller. And it's only because it feels better in my hands. That's it. I got the Pro Controller for that. So when I'm playing docked, I play with this. You can play Metroid Dread with this, and plenty of people have already, gone through the game trying to show, like, yeah, you can play it with the Joy-Cons just fine. It's like, and the fact that he doesn't have a Pro Controller at all, and he was like, oh, I shouldn't have to buy anything. Well, look, dude, if you feel more comfortable with something like this over this, then go ahead and buy it. It's a great investment. And I've had this controller since basically not long after I got my Switch, back when it first came out. It's a really good controller. And some people have said going through it, yeah, that they prefer using the Pro Controller for Dread. And yeah, it's just a preference.
I'm saying the game is not hard like the enemies are hard, but there's a lot of precision work needed, and playing with this default controller, which is what most people have, is really hard. It's hard to get the character to line up and stay lined up with these little nubs.
No, Jaffy, that's not the case. It's not that hard to use the Joy-Cons to line up the shots. The problem he was having is that he refused to use the free aim. So instead, he was just trying to naturally line up every shot, and then he complained that he wouldn't stay put. And even when people would tell him, yeah, you press L button and then you can just aim however you want, and he complained about it. That's why if you look at the footage of him playing, you'll see that when he's trying to shoot, like especially if he's trying to shoot above him, he's like moving to the side because he's like, he can't quite line it up. That's all on him. It's really not that hard to point up and shoot, even if you're not using the free aim. Frankly, David Jaffe just sucks at playing Metroid. That's not on the game, and that's not on the controller, because if he had a Pro Controller, he would still be doing that exact same thing. It's just him.
People are like, well, yeah, you have to play with the Pro Controller. It's dumb, Jaffe. Why are you playing with that controller? Oh, I don't know, because it's the controller that came with the Switch, and because this is a game that nowhere on the box, as far as I can tell, not that I saw a box, I downloaded it, said you should play this with the Pro Controller. I don't know, maybe that's the reason, because I don't fucking live on the Reddit Metroid subreddit or whatever, and it's like, oh, yeah, you gotta play that. How the fuck would anybody know this? How the fuck would anyone know this?
And this is one of the worst points he has in all of his videos. He's desperately trying to find anything he can use to criticize this game, and he's picking the controller because someone in his chat said you need a pro controller, and he took it so literally. There's a guy on YouTube, he did a Collector's Vault. He did a response to David Jaffe, and he actually put this really well. Is that he's taking this so literally, like, oh no, you need, like, actually genuinely need a pro controller because it's the only controller that works with this game. No. What that guy was probably saying was, you know, you'll probably need it to play better because will probably feel more comfortable with you. But he's taking it so literally that he's taking it as the controller that comes with the Switch, the Joy-Cons with the grip, it doesn't work right with Metroid and you need a pro controller. That's not the case. This is asinine, and I want to think higher of Jaffe, to think that he knows this isn't true, but if he knows it, then that means he's blatantly lying just to rip into the game. I mean, he's already doing plenty of lying, but it's so scummy to think that he knows that this is 100% wrong, and he's still ripping into it anyway, just because he's desperate for points that fit his narrative.
Now, I'm not saying you're wrong that the game experience isn't improved drastically by playing with the Pro Controller. But look what you're defending. You're not, you should say, here's the proper response. Absolutely, if the game shipped and it doesn't play well with the default controller, that's egg on our face, but we need to make it clear to the player, hey, you know, you're probably going to have a better experience playing with a different controller. But to act like the onus is on the player to just magically know that the controller that Nintendo saw fit to ship with would work fine with Breath of the Wild, fine with Mario Odyssey. I should just know that? Give me a break. That's horseshit. And you know it's horseshit.
He just goes on and on about this nonsense with the controller, and there's no merit to it. He's just making up this nonsense, and there's really not much else to say. Though I will show something from a guy named Future Nightmares. He made a video response to David Jaffe, and he also did a 3 or so hour live stream going over this. I recommend checking out both of them. I'll link them in the description. In his video response to David Jaffe, he talks about the controllers and how it doesn't really matter which one you play with. They all work perfectly fine.
Either you just use the Joy-Con controllers, you use the Switch Pro controllers, or you play in handheld with just the Joy-Cons on the side of the screen. Each way is perfectly fine. It's just that Metroid Dread feels better and more polished on the Switch Pro controller than it does on the Joy-Cons. But you are able to play the game just fine. You're able to beat the game just fine on the Joy-Con controllers. Again, I beat the game 3 times on all peripherals and still had no issues that he's talking about.
So yeah, like I had said before, it doesn't really matter which one you play with. You can play the game with them just fine. It's just that David Jaffe is trying to use the controller as a scapegoat for his bad playing. And he's trying to use this to bolster his already pretty weak arguments of why Metroid Dread is bad. It's stupid. In Jaffe's own words.
Give me a break. That's horseshit. And you know it's horseshit.
But the fact that he makes such a big deal about it, like, oh, people are saying you need to buy it. No, you don't need to. But a lot of people prefer it for action games. Like, if I'm playing something like, you know, Bayonetta 2 or something, an action game that can be really intense, yeah, I'll prefer to play it with the Pro Controller. If I'm playing something like Ace Attorney, then yeah, you know, I can just, you know, play it with the, I can play it with the Joy-Cons just fine, you know, the stuff that's motion control. I mean, I played Doom with the Joy-Cons. You know, Doom 2016, and I never had any problems with it. It's David Jaffe pulling a DSP and just being desperate to come up with reasons why it's not his fault. And to be honest, it even bleeds into just being like Aaron Hansen. Like, going out of his way to try to make this look as bad as possible. And it's hilarious that a guy who admits that he didn't really pay attention to the tutorial and then gets mad about something that was tutorialized to him just because he wasn't paying attention.
Jaffy, there's a tutorial. It told you to shoot everything. Okay, I'm aware. I want to be a little clear on this. The tutorial was weird. The whole idea of blocks, if you've not played Metroid, and I haven't played much Metroid in my life, is weird. People keep calling these things blocks. And I'm like, this is not a tile set like a 2D game. This is organic environment. And it's like, well, they're hidden blocks. So you shoot this organic looking environment like cave walls and things, and suddenly there are these perfect geometrical blocks, and then you have to shoot those as well. I don't fucking know why. Is the whole universe, is it like you're seeing the atomic thing, like the atomic level of what makes up things in the Metroid universe? It's like, why not just make the environment destructible? Why do you have to make... I just don't fucking understand it. But again, I'm not a Metroid guy. Maybe there's logic to it. I don't understand it. But the point is, the wording is already confusing if you don't know Metroid, because it's talking about blocks. And I'm just... So that's why the tutorial kind of falls apart.
Really, Jaffy? He's really grasping at straws trying to claim that the tutorial was bad. He's complaining about them using the term blocks. And... Yes, Jaffy. Everything in the Metroid universe is made of blocks. There are no atoms, there are only blocks. Samus Aran is made entirely of blocks. Come on. Metroid Dread, while it has 3D graphics, is fundamentally a two-dimensional game and is built on a bunch of blocks. Everything looks nice, some of the stuff looks organic and technical and stuff, but fundamentally it is blocks. They're hidden because they don't literally just pop up as blocks. But it's a gameplay mechanic. You would expect a game designer to understand this. There's going to be gamey elements to any game, even ones that are mostly, quote, realistic. And Metroid Dread, yes. Is it a bit silly that there are literal blocks that appear? Yes, but it's for the gameplay. Come on. He's really trying to come up with reasons why this tutorial is bad just because he didn't get it.
But regardless of that, it is a written tutorial that some people are going to skip, some people are going to forget. And what they ask you to do to prove that you understand the tutorial isn't that similar, in my opinion, to what they're asking you to do in the room I got stuck in, okay? And so it's not like, dude, we've already showed you how to do the butt bounce, the butt slam. Now you need to do it over here. I get that argument. I agree with that. But this is like, here's a wall, and I'm telling you to shoot it, and it reveals some blocks. Now what? You're comfortable with the idea of going into a room and just shooting everything if you're stuck? Well, that's what the tutorial said. Yeah, but that's pretty weird, man. It said it, but it didn't really say it in a way of like, if you get stuck in the game, there could be a lot of reasons you're stuck. One of them is invisible barriers or whatever. Just start shooting things, see what happens. I mean...
Oh, Lord grant me strength to deal with this. Jaffy, please. So the tutorial says that hidden blocks exist, that they're not going to be immediately visible, but you can shoot them to break them, and you can use a missile to show them, and if they can't be broken with a missile, such as a morph ball bomb block, or a power bomb block, it'll reveal them. What's so complicated about that? It says that if you hit a dead end, that you should try shooting your surroundings. That's not just walls, that also includes the ceilings. Yes, in the tutorial, it shows you using walls, but that doesn't mean it's just limited to walls. That's why it says surroundings. They're specifically telling you that you should do this. So when you hit a dead end and you're in a room and it doesn't seem like there's a way out, start shooting around. What's so complicated about that? It's not like you have limited ammo. You can just shoot your power beam just everywhere if you want to. And with the 360-degree aiming, which I know he hates using, but that makes it really easy to just shoot around the walls. You don't need to go around to every single room and shoot all of the walls. And in many cases, the map will actually glow for a certain segment and say, there's something here. So you should go to that area and then you can start shooting around without having to go to every other single room. Hardly anyone is having these problems. David Jaffe seems to be one of the only people that has played Metroid Dread that actually has this problem. He didn't get it when he was playing, therefore it's bad. He doesn't even bother to consider how everyone else feels about this. He doesn't bother thinking, well, you know, I may not have gotten it, but basically everyone else did.
Am I so out of touch? No, it's the children who are wrong.
And again, he's trying to blame the game for being bad because he didn't get it. And really, Jaffy, it's a written tutorial. Some people would skip it and some people will forget. If someone skips a tutorial, they have no right to complain about not knowing how to do something the tutorial told them, but it's written down. A bunch of tutorials in games are written down. Sometimes they'll just have text on the screen. Sometimes a character will say it. But a lot of them are like that. It's not that complicated. And really, what if someone forgets? If someone forgets what's in the tutorial, that's not in the game. And if someone needs to go back and check out the tutorial again, they can. But just because they forgot or they didn't pay attention isn't a problem with the game.
Again, I'm down if you like that. I'm down if that's Metroid. But just because that's Metroid doesn't mean it's okay for me. You know, I have very little experience with the Metroid series. I haven't played one since 94, which was Super Metroid. I didn't play it that long. I didn't love it. And so if you're saying I should have known better because that's Metroid, I guess, but that's an interesting way to push people away that don't have the same relationship with the franchise that you do, if that's what you're hoping for, I suppose.
Jaffy, the game does tell you about this. It doesn't just throw you into the game and assume that you've played every other Metroid game and not tell you anything. It does tell you how to do stuff. If there's anything I would have expected you to complain about the game not teaching you, it's specifically wall jumping. Which, yeah, that's actually something from previous games that isn't specifically tutorialized in this. But you don't have a problem with that. It's specifically the tutorial in regards to the hidden blocks. But all this important stuff that you need to know and the stuff that you complain about is tutorialized to you. It doesn't just assume that you've played every other Metroid game. And honestly, complaining about it pushing people away. This is one of the most newcomer-friendly Metroid games. From its extremely detailed map that can be very helpful in getting around. All of the checkpoints that you get in the game, all of the save points. I've talked about the game being really fair with its difficulty, but this is very newcomer-friendly. Plenty of older Metroid games are not newcomer-friendly, and you really have to adapt or die. You know, you better get good, or you're not going to be making it very far in them. Dread at least feels like it's offering a bit of a helping hand in that regard. It's not holding your hand, it's just kind of there to pull you along a little bit in case you need a little bit of help. But other than that, it's letting you get smacked around. It just seems so weird to me that he's complaining about Metroid Dread being like, oh, it's pushing people away. No, it's really not. There's a reason why so many people are getting into Metroid for the first time with Dread and having a blast. It's really good, and it's the most accessible game in the series. And for all his whining about how he doesn't want this game to hold his hand.
Anything and everything I need to know. I don't need. There shouldn't be a prerequisite of having played the series in the past. There shouldn't be a prerequisite of like, well, you need to have, you know, a guide opened up in order to play. Fuck off. Fuck off. This is not learning to play golf, and you buy the golf clubs, but you're going to need a teacher and you're going to need to read some books. This is a fucking video game that is all inclusive. So no, I'm sorry. I'm not looking for hand holding. I'm just looking for good design. Now listen, the game asks so much of you without, people say, oh, you want to have your hand? No, I don't want to don't hold my fucking hand, motherfucker. But there's a difference between not holding your hand and sort of shoving you out of an airplane without a parachute and go, have fun, figure out how not to die. I'm like, yeah, fuck off. No.
Frankly, that's exactly what he's advocating for. He wants Metroid Dread to baby him through everything. He wants it to hold his hand the whole time. I mean, for his own ego's sake, he can't admit that, but that's what he's advocating for. He wants this game to be extremely straightforward and simple with everything, to hold his hand through every single step. He wants this game to literally have a tutorial that says, shoot the ceiling at this spot. It's not even like this is a child having difficulty with a part of the game. No, it's an adult. It's not just an adult, but an adult with years of experience in designing video games. You would think this wouldn't be so hard for him.
And it's really funny. It's hilarious that he's trying to monetize it by making a bunch of Metroid videos, and he keeps getting obliterated with dislikes. It's hilarious. I mean, you can see the other videos that he's made recently, and you can see that, yeah, the Metroid videos were doing better than his other ones, so he was probably trying to monetize it by making more Metroid videos. But even he couldn't monetize this well enough, because honestly, he just keeps making himself look more pathetic. And it's really sad. This man is 50 years old. He's a middle-aged man, a grown adult, throwing temper tantrums and getting into Twitter slap fights, and calling everyone who disagrees with him a Metroid fanboy, when even people who are new to the franchise aren't having these problems. And to be perfectly honest, I just wanted to laugh at this guy. I'm not angry at this as I was right back when he was first starting, and I saw him his tweets coming onto Twitter and being spread around, and people were pointing out just how stupid he was. It's just funny at this point, just because of how stupid he is and how he's so staunchly sticking to his narrative. And it's funny seeing other people getting thousands of views, even people who have no subscribers, getting thousands of views just making fun of this idiot. It's freaking hilarious. And frankly, David Jaffe deserves all of it. Not just because he's bad at the game. Look, if he was bad at the game, but he just played it and just said, yeah, I know I'm not good at this, then that would have been fine. No one really would have been angry at him if he was pushing through. I've seen people who weren't great at games push through and beat games that they thought they couldn't. If David Jaffe just wasn't that good, then yeah, people would have been fine. If he owned it and said, yeah, I'm just not good. But no. He'll say that now and say, well, I'm just not good at hard games. Then why did you play a game in a series that's known for being kind of hard? And then blame the game for being badly designed. He didn't even, and that's the thing. It's not even like he got to the real hard bosses and rage quit on those. I would have understood if he got to some of those. So some of those bosses can be really tough, and they can destroy you the first time you go against them. And I can see why, for some people, that might be insanely demoralizing. But he didn't even get that far. He didn't even get to the first boss, which I would consider pretty freaking easy. That's the only boss in the entire game that I didn't die to once. And he didn't even get to that one. And seeing how he refuses to admit that, yeah, I was just... I mean, he could have earned respect if he had just come out and admitted after he was shown that he was wrong to say, okay, yeah, sorry, I was being really emotional, I was on stream, I felt embarrassed, I'm a game designer, so getting stuck on something like this, I didn't want to admit that I was bad at it. You know what? People would have been fine, okay, alright, you had a bad take, but then you realized you were wrong. But no. He staunchly sticks by his bad take. He doesn't want to admit he was wrong. And that's so shameful. that he would go so far as to try to lie about the game, admit that he only played a little bit of it, then makes a review on it. And he's proud of that fact. And he's trying to incentivize people to not buy Dread and buy other games, when Metroid Dread needs to sell. I mean, it's selling well enough, it seems so far, but it needs all the sales it can get to really bolster the message that a lot of people want to send to Nintendo that, yeah, no, people will buy Metroid games. And maybe it might even send the message that Nintendo can bring back old franchises that have been dormant for a while, stuff like F-Zero. And you can make a new game that people will buy. So maybe if Dread does well enough, they might look back at their old catalog of games that they haven't done much with and bring them back. I mean, who knows? But the fact that he shows zero care about this is insane. And it's all just to soothe his own ego. Is frankly pathetic.
Okay, so I was going to end the video here, but of course, as I'm finishing up making the video, David Jaffe posts another Metroid Dread video.
So that was a fucking lie.
And the day that I'm finishing it up, and I was almost done.
And tonight of all nights.
It's short, and I'm going to respond to it. And I won't spend as much time on this one because, frankly, I'm tired and I want to get this video done. But I'll talk about what he says in it, because it's really only a couple of things. So, first of all, at the end of the video, he brags about how, oh, he's, monetizing all of this, and he's got so much engagement, and everything is going so good, and, basically he's like, oh, all you haters, and he's trying to act all, smug about everything. It's just really obnoxious, and it's like, okay, yeah, you did get a bit of an uptick just because people were checking out your channel, but it's not like all of his videos are getting the same level of engagement as the Metroid Dread videos. It's exactly what I said before, that he was trying to monetize it, trying to monetize the rage, but like that stuff's only going to last so long, and it's really not going to be enough to keep his channel like growing significantly for a longer period of time. It's just him acting obnoxious and smug. But that was at the end of the video. There are two other main points that he makes. It's really only two things. So he shows a video from Nintendo's, Japanese YouTube channel, and it was a video of tips for Metroid Dread. Basically, it was a Metroid Dread for Dummies video. And one of the tips on it, and this is what David Jaffe hones in on, is saying, it's in Japanese, but it's basically like, shoot everything and find hidden blocks. And it shows sort of a short montage of a few areas in Dread that you can shoot and expose, hidden blocks. And one of the parts that they showed was the room. And he is taking this as a victory, thinking, oh, they're admitting it. Look, they're showing it. They need to show this so people can see it. Oh my gosh. Seriously. This is for people who don't know anything about the game or really don't know anything about video games. If they're showing that, then this is like, hey, if you don't know anything, here's stuff that can help you. And David Jaffe, if they're showing stuff that would have helped you as a game designer with decades of experience, that's not a win. That's embarrassing. Oh my gosh. And he's so smug, and it's like, it comes across more like the crying, smug Wojak face. He just, oh my gosh, it's not a win, David Jaffe. It's just, and he started off the video with the whole skit like, oh, I'm talking to Nintendo and I'm helping them out. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's not funny. It's just cringe, especially because the video is just, it's a Metroid Dread for Dummies. If it helps you, David Jaffe, then you're a dummy. I mean, Nintendo does stuff like this, you know. Obviously, they do want to put out some stuff, tips for people. But again, as I've talked about in the video, hardly anyone had an actual problem with this. David Jaffe is one of the few people I've seen ever even talk about having an issue with that room. Everyone else went through it just fine. Nintendo is not admitting that you need help to get through that room. David Jaffe, no, you needed help getting through that room. Pretty much everyone else was fine. It's like when he was trying to go on Twitter and talk about it. He got ratioed over and over with it. It's so embarrassing. And his other point, the last thing he talks about in the video, is he brings up Famitsu scores of Metroid Dread. He prefaces this by talking about how Famitsu was once upon a time considered prestigious. If you got a high score from it, then that was really good. And it's not as prestigious as it once was. I mean, a lot of reviewing publications aren't as good as they once were, and I don't really follow Famitsu, so I'm not really going to comment on this, but this is his point, right? And he says it's easier to get decent scores. And then he says, oh, he counts up the score for Metroid Dread, and it's a 34. It was 9898. And then he's like, oh, look at my Drawn to Death, the one that everyone complained about it. They gave it a 32. So he talks about how Famitsu isn't as great of a publication, and getting a decent score isn't as prestigious as it once was. And he brags about his Drawn to Death only getting a couple points below the much loved Metroid Dread. Okay, well, first of all, one reviewer site, giving it a couple of 9s and a couple of 8s does not negate every other score. And if he's saying that it's not really a trustworthy place, then why is he using it? Well, the only reason he's using it is because it fits his narrative. And his Drawn to Death, yes, his Drawn to Death, he bragged about it getting a 32. Yeah, Drawn to Death was a game that is, yeah, it's a game that's pretty infamously bad. I had honestly never even heard about it until recently, which shows just how much of a splash it made when it came out.
I think it's a game whose time has passed.
And he's trying to use these review scores. Oh my gosh, it's like, who cares about what those review scores says? I honestly don't even really care about what a lot of these reviewers say. You look at what people are saying about the game, and a lot of the people who played are saying is that it's a great game. He's grasping at straws, anything he can get to fulfill his narrative. And all he has is review scores from a reviewer that he has criticized as not being as good as it once was. And the room that he had trouble with being featured in a Metroid Dread for Dummies video. Oh my gosh. You're so embarrassing, Jaffy. Why are you like this? Anyway, that's it. I'm done with this, and I'm so done dealing with David Jaffe.
Well, that's really all I wanted to talk about with this, because I just want to talk about how stupid David Jaffe was, and how he sucks at Metroid. And he just really can't admit that it's a good game that's just not for him. And it's a shame that he just can't say it's not for him and leave it at that, instead of having to come up with some grand explanation for how it's such a terrible game. But, whatever. David Jaffe will go down in history as the guy who rage quit Metroid Dread over the dreaded room. And I think that's probably the funniest part about it, is that that's going to be his legacy. He's going to be that guy who couldn't beat Metroid Dread and got angry about it. So yeah, that's it for this video. If you like Metroidvania games, and especially are a fan of Metroid, go buy Metroid Dread. And even if you're not as familiar with it, it's actually pretty newcomer friendly, despite its high difficulty. It's really fairly made. Trust me, it's really good. Please buy it. I really love this game. It's really good. But anyway, thank you for watching.
I want to have chill stream. No detractor memes. bathroom breaks, playing WWE, relaxing chill session of Street Fighter 3, like I'm getting my vibe back from 2017.